Good evening. It is time for the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. So buckle up. We are in for a wild ride. I am Adam Wright, along with Justin Tucker and Brian Mucker. So to start off, we have a big announcement, guys. We are now on Spotify and Google Play. Woo! Our goal has always been to expand and become much larger as a podcast. And by adding these two new platforms, this is a big step towards accomplishing our goal. Mm-hmm. Guys, what do you have to say about us being on Spotify? Got anything to say to Spotify?
Thank you for letting us on. We're getting one step closer to our main objective.
How you guys doing, Spotify? All right, Brian.
I said I loved it. I love how we're on Spotify, even though I don't have the app, but...
Right. Brian loves it. Did you hear that? Yeah, Brian loves it. He loves it. He approves. All right. Yeah. So make sure you guys check us out on those formats. This is going to be big. We are going to expand, and it's going to be awesome. All right. So getting into all the biggest news, we're going to get into the breaking news since our last episode. This was actually just a day after we last recorded, me and Justin, and I'm going to talk about a certain prediction that was right. So Carson Wentz. Turns out when you say that he goes to the Colts, when somebody says on this show that he's going to go to the Colts, turns out he's always right. All right?
Doesn't help with your last name.
So Carson Wentz has been traded to the Colts for a 2021 third-round pick and a 2022 conditional second-round pick that could turn into a first-round pick. All right? So, guys, I think the biggest question we could ask here is, does this move put the Colts in contention to represent in the AFC?
Yeah, it does. It puts them in a better spot than they were last year because they don't have an aging quarterback in Phillip Rivers who can't really throw the deep ball like he should. But yeah, if everything turns out the way it's supposed to, and Carson Wentz can return to form instead of what he was last year, which is subpar at best, then yeah, they are a Super Bowl contender. They have the weapons around him. They have the offensive line around him. And they have a solid defense behind him. So all in all, they're quite a fearsome threat to the AFC. And they've gotten better over this offseason, regardless of what they had to give up, which was a little bit, a conditional second and a third, I believe, just to get him. And now that he's on the team, I think things are pretty optimistic in Indianapolis right now.
I agree. Brian?
So I like this trade for both teams. I think this gives the Colts more of a playoff push and where they go. I think they could go farther than last year. For the Eagles side, I like how they did it because this gives them the draft picks that they need in the draft to rebuild some of their defense that they have missing. Because as you know, the Eagles defense was atrocious last year. I think Wentz being with the Colts, I really like how he's like that. I think he'll be doing great in Indianapolis, especially with the young talent that Indianapolis has in that offense, like Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. You got very young, talented wide receivers in Zach Pascal, Paris Campbell, and Michael Pittman Jr. I would like to see T.Y. Hilton back in a Colts uniform, but we don't know that yet because he's a free agent this year. But overall, I like the trade, and I think Wentz can go farther with the Colts than Rivers did last year.
I agree with both of you, actually, for once.
Shocker.
Shocker.
So guys, this is a team that, with Phillip Rivers at quarterback. Now, this isn't a knock on Phillip Rivers. This is more to say he's old. With Phillip Rivers at quarterback, they went, 10-6, 11-5?
11-5.
11-5. And they were in contention for the division. They went 11-5, and they nearly won a playoff game. Okay, so this is a team that had a really competent defense, very good defense, top 5 caliber around that area. They have Michael Pittman. They have Paris Campbell. They can possibly have T.Y. Hilton at wide receiver. we'll see what happens in free agency. They have a great running game with Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines. This is a team, and they have one of the best offensive lines. So all of these things, in our last show, I mentioned when I correctly predicted that that Carson Wentz was going to be a Colt.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I forgot to mention, what I failed to mention, but I should have mentioned, and it's actually a much bigger factor than we all might think, is that his old quarterback coach from the Eagles from that season where he nearly won MVP,
mm-hmm.
he is back as the head coach.
Yes, sir.
So you put all of these, you actually look at this Colts team and you look at that Eagles team, and they have a lot of similarities. Good young team, great defense,
mm-hmm.
good running game. They have they have one of the best offensive lines in the league, just like that Eagles team.
Yeah.
And you put Carson Wentz and the guy who coached you back in that season, and you all of a sudden you have a contending team. They could easily turn out to be exactly like what that team was. I think the only thing that's standing in Carson Wentz's way is the mental factor. It's a matter of has he been mentally deteriorated over the years from years with the Eagles. But if he's able to overcome that, look out for the Indianapolis Colts to contend in the AFC with the Kansas City Chiefs and say the Buffalo Bills. They could easily beat either of those teams, and they should absolutely be in the mix to contend in the AFC.
Yeah. Definitely a top 7 team in the AFC. I think they're now better than the Titans, so I think they'll take the South. So that means they'll definitely be a top 4 team, which means they'll have a home playoff game. But it's going to be a tough battle in the AFC, but I think with the weapons they have and the pieces surrounding Carson Wentz, I think they can make the AFC Championship game and possibly the Super Bowl if everything goes right. But if everything goes wrong, which could happen, oh boy.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a bit of a question mark here with this whole thing, but I mean, best case scenario, I think we're looking at the best case scenario
mm-hmm.
when we're being optimistic about this, is that this could really work out well for them. But at the same time, he could be just not right anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if this does work out, who's better than them besides Kansas City, which is a given?
I mean, you already know who I'm a root for. You already know it's the Ravens for me.
You think the Ravens are better?
Yes. That's not even a question to me. If it's just they are better. And
Justin, the two defenses are kind of like similar, so I'll give you that.
Buffalo.
This is what I don't agree. The wide receivers. You guys need wide receivers.
They did beat them last year.
So you have them top 4.
Yeah, they're a top 4 team.
Top 4 team. I have them top 3.
I have them top 4. It's a mixture.
And here's the thing with...
Oh, wait, time out. Who's the 4th?
Who's the 4th? We have Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Bills.
Yeah.
We have your Ravens, you say.
Yeah. You say... What?
Allegedly, the Ravens.
Okay.
We have the
Colts.
Ravens and the Colts. Those are your top 4 in the AFC right now. That's your power rankings right now.
Okay, so the Ravens are 3rd and the Colts are... All right, we're settled on it.
So
we're fine with that.
Here's my thing about KC and why I think that this AFC is going to be wide open. Is Kansas City just lost to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And teams that typically teams who lose the Super Bowl aren't the same the year after.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, now they could still make the AFC Championship, but the fact of the matter is the teams that lose the Super Bowl, they've only made the Super Bowl 8 times, and only 3 have gone back to win again.
Yeah.
All right.
One of them's, the Patriots.
One of them's my New England Patriots. The other 2 were in the 70s. There was the Dolphins, and I believe it was the Cowboys as well. So both of them happened in the 70s. The other one was the Patriots. It's obviously, this is unheard of. So Kansas City, we could almost take them out of the conversation.
Whoa.
Almost. We could say that it's gonna be unlikely for them.
That's reckless. That is completely right. You just
8 times.
Right.
You just have something
It could
against
come
him.
down to Bills or Colts.
Probably get on him because I think he's being completely reckless.
No, I think he's right here because if you look at the 49ers from this year, they got slammed with injuries, and who knows if that's going to happen with injuries. You don't think that can happen with the freaking Chiefs?
That if you're telling me it's because of the injuries, that's one thing. If you're just going to tell me they're going to fall off, no, they're going to be right up there.
They're going to fall off, and I agree. I think they'll make the playoffs, but they won't go as far as they did this year.
It's a possibility. Y'all making it seem like it's
I think to me, it's like a 50-50 right here.
They're going to lose the Ravens regardless, but still.
I think it's improbable. Just look at all the past. There's been 55 Super Bowls. Only 8 teams have gone on to make the Super Bowl again after losing it.
It's most likely. It's not improbable.
I think it's improbable.
It's Justin.
All right, that's your opinion.
The Colts are a factor in that. The Bills are a factor. The Ravens are a factor.
The statistics, the data
Yeah.
from the past few years backs it up.
Yeah. That doesn't mean.
Now, I'm not trying to say they're not going to be good. It's not going to be the 49ers last year.
Yeah.
Or any other team that loses and is never the same again. But it could be. But they could make the AFC Championship. I just think there's something that's going to go wrong. There's a mental factor that plays into losing the Super Bowl, and there's a narrative that goes along that stays with that lingers with the team after they lose the Super Bowl, and they're not the same for a little while, you know. And
I kind of disagree.
One of the only teams that was able to do that was the Patriots.
Yeah.
That's a team where you had 2 leaders in Tom Brady and Bill Belichick who were able to bring them back. That's rare air, you know. And before that, it was 2 teams in the 70s, about almost 50 years ago. All right, so I do say it's an improbability.
Okay.
All right, so Colts, it's wide open for you. Just make sure this kid is right, and you guys are going to go to the Super Bowl. There's a strong possibility.
Over the Ravens' dead body. But AFC Championship game. I see that.
If anything, it's over the Bills' dead body.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
How many points did they score against the Bills? How many points?
We only scored 3. They only scored 10.
That's correct.
They only scored 10.
It was enough. Actually, 17.
No.
The pick 6.
That doesn't count. Their offense did nothing.
Defensive points count.
Okay. If Lamar doesn't throw that pick 6 and it's instead of a touchdown, we're not having this argument.
Well, we can't play this if and when.
Yeah, we're not.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda game.
We're not going
because
to.
It happened.
We're not going to. Hats off to the Bills, but y'all ain't no.
Well, he can't take any poop breaks anymore. None of those bean burritos to take a quick poop break, come back, win the game for him.
He did not pull a Paul Pierce.
I think he took a dump.
Absolutely not.
He definitely did.
Lamar, I'm with you. You did not take a number 2.
I mean, that's almost a compliment towards him. He left the game in the 4th quarter to take a dump. He came back and won them the game against Cleveland.
Still don't believe it. Don't let the haters say otherwise, Lamar. You had cramps.
That's not even hating. I think that's a good thing. He went to take a dump. That's better than cramps. And for him to tap out with cramps.
He didn't tap out. He came back.
It's like LeBron leaving games with his little leg cramps. All right.
Hey man, it was his whole Lord. We're not talking basketball. Let's continue.
All right. Yep. We can't agree on basketball
at all.
You guys can tell Justin and I disagree on a lot of things, but on basketball, you think football's bad? Basketball
is ridiculous.
This kid is just too delusional to know that LeBron is not the GOAT.
And for some reason, this guy over here thinks MJ is the GOAT.
It's obvious.
It's not obvious.
6 is greater than 4.
And 11 is greater than 6. We don't base everything on rings.
Well, he also did all of it with one team. He moved over to. All right. This is a football podcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
All right. Now, moving on. Today, So this episode's being recorded on Tuesday, February 23rd, and today happens to be the first day where players can be franchised. Now there's several rumored players who can be franchised, and I have a list of some players. There's Allen Robinson by the Bears. There is Kenny Golladay by the Lions. There is Chris Godwin by the Buccaneers, and there's Dak Prescott by the Cowboys. All right, so guys, which of these players is more crucial by the team to be franchised?
Again, I believe personally it's Dak Prescott because they need a quarterback. Now, granted, they could still choose one in the first round, but I'd rather have the surefire thing instead of a guess at quarterback. Dak Prescott has been a Pro Bowl, has won a playoff game for the Cowboys, has shown you in the clutch he can deliver at times. It's just the team around him's 8-8 perpetually. It is what it is. But I believe he is deserving of the contract, and I believe they will get a contract done. With that said, without Dak Prescott, what else they got? I mean, the wide receiver trio is obviously good with CD, Michael Gallup, and Amari. But their defense, don't even get me started on that defense. Oh, my God, that running defense was atrocious.
They need to rebuild that defense.
Yeah.
Big time.
Big time. But first things first, shore up your franchise quarterback, give him that 4-year or 5-year deal that he wants, and then move on. I don't think anybody else comes close as far as Dak Prescott does.
All right, Ryan?
So I have cases for all of these players. So Dak Prescott, I think he's going to test the market before he comes making a decision with the Cowboys, either to stay or leave the Cowboys. So I'm going to pull this and say, I'm going to say no, that he's not going to return.
Well, if Dak gets the tag, he doesn't really have a choice.
He can just sit out and wait for a trade.
Yeah, there's that, but
yeah,
you know,
I don't think you can learn a whole offense like that.
Kenny Golladay, I know got offered a 4-year deal by Detroit, $60 million. He'll get $60 million per season. Declined it right away. He's going to a new team. There's no way he's going back to Detroit. Allen Robinson, I know he had complaints about not getting the ball enough, so I don't really see him ending up in Chicago again. So basically, Chris Godwin, I'm going to say that he's not going to get franchise tagged, and the Bucs will re-sign him. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that Shaq Barrett gets the franchise tag for the Bucs.
Shaquille Barrett for the Bucs.
Yeah.
So you don't think it's going to be Chris Godwin?
No, I think he could. He said he's going to test. I saw on a social media post that I think he's going to test the market a little bit. But if things don't really work out, he could sign a short-term deal with the Bucs.
What was the source?
It was like some sort of like
meme page
and ESPN thing. I don't know. It was something he said to a reporter. I don't remember what the source was, but that's what I saw.
Right. Well, be careful with some of these sources. They put out a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so I'm going to go in a different direction from both of you guys.
Oh, let's hear it.
All right. So Allen Robinson, he must remain a Bear in order for this team to have any chance at winning a Super Bowl in the next couple of years. Now, the reason for this, their defense is still one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
They have led by Khalil Mack, the likes of Kyle Fuller and Akeem Hicks. They got that new kid. What's his name? Jalen Johnson?
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson on playing corner. They have Eddie Jackson, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is a star-studded defense. They have a very good running game with a good young running back in David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very solid across the board corps of wide receivers and pass catchers behind Allen Robinson. Say they have like a Darnell Mooney. They have a Jimmy Graham. But they need that number one receiver.
Mm-hmm.
They need to retain him. This team, they're just a quarterback away from contention. Their offensive line could use a little bit of work,
mm-hmm.
but they're only a quarterback away from Super Bowl contention, but if Robinson goes, it all falls apart because then you're adding another need to the list, and you need that number one receiver in order to stay on that elite status, to keep that to keep that offense going. So the bottom line is the Bears need Robinson back. And you mentioned Dak Prescott. I agree the quarterback is the most important part of the field, but the issue is they're already confident they're going to re-sign him without the franchise tag. They don't. The question is, which is the most crucial to get the tag on? They might not even need the franchise tag on Dak Prescott. The thing with Shaquille Barrett, they might be able to sign him as well. And I think it's a question on whether or not they can franchise either Chris Godwin or Shaquille Barrett. If they can get either of those guys and probably try to sign the other, then they're all set. Galladay, we'll see what happens. They're probably going to get him. They're going into rebuild mode anyways. But Allen Robinson by the Bears, this is a team that's knocking on the door of Super Bowl contention, and if they can't do it, if they can't get him back, then it sets them back all the way. Bottom line, Bears need Robinson back.
This is my theory. So Adam, this is my theory for the Bears. I know there's been a lot of rumors with Sam Darnold being moved. Would you like to see him in a Bears uniform? Do you think he can do well, and you think they'll catch Allen Robinson's eye saying, "Oh, I want to rejoin the Bears"?
I think whether it's Mac Jones or Sam Darnold, whether it's Deshaun Watson, by those if they get somebody who can do it, then that team elevates up to Super Bowl contention. Just look everywhere you look on that Bears team. They just need a quarterback.
If it's Deshaun Watson going to the Bears,
if they can't get Robinson back, then they need more.
And I agree. And I think if Deshaun Watson even ends up with the Bears, he's absolutely going back. Robinson's absolutely going back to the Bears, 100%. He wants to win, and he wants to win a ring.
Yep.
And if they get a quarterback, they very well could. You know, they would. I mean, at that point, you'd have to worry about the other teams in the NFC, but at least you want to get into contention. You know, you want to take it one step at a time. Worry about all those teams once you get your own stuff figured out. All right, but I think the Bears need Robinson badly.
More importantly than the Cowboys need Dak?
Well, they need him, but they're already going to get a deal done.
You're hoping they get a deal done. I don't think nothing's set in stone until the deal gets done.
It's not set in stone, but it's pretty likely.
Back in 2019, Jerry Jones admitted that a deal is imminent, and we're still waiting on that deal. They've been trying to make this deal happen since 2019. Well, it hasn't happened since then. It's like, come on now. It's now or never now.
This is going to be their lucky offseason.
They're
going to do it.
You think they're going to do it? You're hoping it will happen.
Well, what else is going to happen? I just don't.
He leaves and tests the free agent market and won't come back to Dallas, and they'll be stuck. And now they're going to have to hope that a quarterback is good enough to help them out.
All right, look, both sides want to reach a deal. He's still in his recovery process, which gives Dallas a little bit of an edge, and they're going to be kind to him and give him a solid offer, and they're going to be like, okay, thank you, you've been supportive to me, and they're going to get the deal done. That's my prediction. I think he's going to remain a Dallas Cowboy. But as for Allen Robinson, if they don't franchise him, he's gone.
Yeah,
he's gone. He has no patience left with this organization. This is an organization that's this close, a quarterback away. I know that's easier said than done, but with the quarterbacks that are on this market, if you take Sam Darnold, if you take
Sam Darnold, Deshaun Watson, any of those caliber of quarterbacks and put them on the Bears, you are assuming that they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, correct?
Yes. I think if you get a competent quarterback, then everything comes together. I think.
Yeah, I agree. My problem is I'd rather lose Allen Robinson and rely on the running game with David Montgomery, because David Montgomery has shown you he can work with that, do more with the workload, than get rid of Dak Prescott and rely on Zeke, who has underperformed this season and is playing like a scrub. Tony Pollard outplayed this man this season. I'll say it again, Zeke. Tony Pollard outplayed you this year. You did not deserve to be the running back number 1 this year.
Say it a little louder for the people in the back.
Just making sure. Tony Pollard was a better running back than you were this year, Zeke. Get it together. You're the $90 million man. $50 million guaranteed.
That's why you
get it together.
That's why you don't invest in running backs, because that's just what happens.
No. Depends. You could get lucky at running back and had Frank Gore, to be fair.
Frank, yeah, but how many championships did teams win with Frank Gore?
He got close. It just so happened he ran up against my Ravens and Giants.
Oh, well.
He went up against 2 Super Bowl champions.
That had more to do with the defense, a promising quarterback who couldn't keep his crap together. Yeah. But you get the point.
Yeah.
Bears, bring Allen Robinson back. All right.
Don't listen to him, Dak. Get the Cowboys.
Dak's coming back. Dude.
You hope.
He's coming back.
You hope. He hasn't shown it yet.
He's coming back.
Signed on the dotted line.
Moving on. Buccaneers are looking to defend their Super Bowl title and repeat as Super Bowl champions for the first time since the 03-04 Patriots. That'd be really fitting for Brady to do it again.
God, I kid.
However, they have a lot of players on their current roster who are hitting free agency. Here's just a short list of some of their key players. There is Shaquille Barrett, Levante David, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and Ndamukong Suh. Which of these players, guys, do they really need to re-sign? Do they have to re-sign in order to remain in Super Bowl contention?
Which one, or
which of them? Which of these players do they need?
If it's up to me, I'd make a bid on Levante David, and I'd make a bid on Shaquille Barrett. I think that defense needs those 2 pieces to survive based upon their concepts and what they do well on defense. They need both of those players to stay, because Levante David is a very fast linebacker who doesn't miss tackles and is sideline to sideline. I think keeping him is more like a necessity for that defense. And then there's Shaquille Barrett, who applies the pressure off the edge. So if you continue to keep those 2, I think you'll be in position to win championships. If you can't keep them, oh dear Lord.
All right. Brian?
So this is what I say. So I already said to you guys that Shaq Barrett will get franchise tagged.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he'll be remaining with the Bucs. Now I say 2 players will be returning, and I'm going to go with Justin Levante David, great linebacker. He had a great season, and I think if you keep that middle linebacker up, he could easily stop the run right there, and he could obviously go sideline to sideline making tackles left and right. Another player that they should re-sign to long term, maybe like to 4 or 5 years, Chris Godwin. Depending if whoever gets the franchise tag between those 2, Chris Godwin should be re-signed by the Bucs. I would like to see Ndamukong Suh, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if anything, maybe like a 1-year deal, if anything. But we don't know. We could also use the draft detail. Gronkowski, I think he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone. They have Cameron Brate. They have OJ Howard. I don't think they need to invest in tight ends. Leonard Fournette, nope. I don't think he's coming back. We got No, we got Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones, yes, he was hurt, and that's why he didn't really play a lot. But I think Ronald Jones, should have that number 1 position. Maybe sign a guy like Marlon Mack to maybe like back him up.
That's the side.
And the other play, I would also, a guy that you guys kind of forgot, who filled in for Vita Vea when he was injured, was, I think his name was Raheem Nunez Roches. I liked him a lot in that defense. I think he applied a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And I thought he was a good fill-in when Vea was absent. So I think he can maybe re-sign a 1-year deal. But other than that, I think those two players in Godwin and David are definite.
So who do they need to re-sign in order to stay in?
They need to re-sign Godwin to keep that offense intact, and they need to keep Lavonte David to keep that defense intact. You obviously don't need Antonio Brown. To me, he's like a cancer on that offense.
Apparently
he
not.
Can't keep his mouth shut, accused of something. I think Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Scotty Miller is a great offensive core. And yes, Adam, I put a lot of emphasis on Scotty Miller.
God, I hate that guy.
You love him.
I loved him for that 1 week when I was about to start him on fantasy football. He got 1 catch for 9 yards. I was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
who won that?
Who won?
Wasn't you?
We're not gonna talk about that. All right, now. So I think both of you guys have decent points.
Mm-hmm.
Subpar, solid.
So far.
But I think what you fail to realize is quarterbacks in new systems are better in year 2.
Uh-huh.
All right. Now, the Buccaneers back in this past year, they needed their defense to perform well because their offense was not quite as efficient as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in year 2, if they keep Chris Godwin, and I don't think they need Antonio Brown. I think their offense runs better without him. They'll probably want Rob Gronkowski. He's a given to stay.
Mm-hmm.
He's not gonna. He came out of retirement
for Brady.
And but year 2, this offense is going to run better, and they'll be less dependent on the defense, meaning it won't be quite as crucial to keep a Lavonte David. As much it'd be nice to keep him. He's obviously one of their best defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, but at the same time, I think the one part of that defense they really need to keep intact is that pass rush, meaning Shaquille Barrett is a must keep on that defense in order to stay productive. That's how they won a lot of games, was getting to the quarterback. And being able to keep their quarterback on their feet, as I preached all season long. All right. So they should be able to re-sign Sue and Gronkowski if they really want to. They probably will. I think they don't need Brown or Fournette. I think the offense runs plenty smooth without them. But however, Chris Godwin is a must. Shaq Barrett is a must. Lavonte David, if they can get him back, that's great. But the fact of the matter is, this guy's made it known he wants to be paid.
Yeah.
And I just think when you have Devin White already, he's not a must-have. Mm-hmm. What they really need is they need to keep Godwin and they need to keep Barrett. If they can retain those 2 players, then their offense will run perfectly well. Their defense won't be quite as great, but their offense will make up for it because it's going to be better in year 2 because the offense teams and new quarterbacks in new systems always play better in year 2. And I believe Tom Brady is going to have a better offensive year. And Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Scotty Miller even, those players are going to be benefactors of that. And I think they're going to be less reliant on that defense. That defense takes a step back, but the offense takes a step forward, and they'll remain in Super Bowl contention. So bottom line is Godwin and Barrett are must-keeps.
But if you think the offense is going to take a step forward now that Brady has another year under his belt, why do I need to keep Chris Godwin? I think Brady has done more with less, apparently, to you. So I don't understand why I need to keep Chris Godwin around. If it's going to cost a lot, I can get a lot more. I can get more with Antonio Brown than Chris Godwin, and he'll be cheaper.
So that's the thing. I just think the offense doesn't run as smooth with Brown over Godwin.
That I don't know. I really don't know. I think they can run plenty fine just as long as Brown knows his role. Like Mike Evans is the true number 1. you're the number 2. Stay in that position. If you don't, Scotty will take your spot. Get
Scotty
in line.
boy.
But anyway, Scotty boy. Anyway, I think that defense needs to stay in tow as much as possible. It's either you're going to have Levante David or you're going to have Shaquille Barrett. I don't think Shaquille Barrett wants to keep on dealing with this franchise tag, so I think it's either one or the other. So I think if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather have Shaquille Barrett than Levante David because I value pass rushers more. But I do not. But if I can, I'll try to keep both.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would love for Levante David to be back on that roster, and I think if they were able to retain them, then they'd finish a lot better than if they didn't have Levante David.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, I just don't think they'll need him. I think that offense is going to be better, and so to your point, where I preached that Tom Brady does more with less, I actually happen to believe that more for earlier on in his career. I think Tom Brady's gotten to an age where he just can't do that anymore, and he needs a little bit around him. And you see that a lot with a lot of quarterbacks when they get older. Yeah. Brett Favre had better rosters when he was older. Peyton Manning, debatable. I think that Vikings team was pretty good.
It's still debatable if you look at the offenses he's had for Brett Favre.
It's debatable, but he had great rosters when he was.
Peyton Manning, that roster was not good offensively.
Offensively? Eric Decker?
You're 2015.
Thomas?
I'm talking about the year they actually won the Super Bowl, not the year they made it and got obliterated.
Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas aren't good?
They're fine. But what happened in that Super Bowl? It wasn't an offensive flagship performance.
That was.
It was the running game and the defense. That's the only thing you can tell me about that.
Peyton Manning fell off the cliff.
Okay.
He fell off Max Kellerman's cliff.
Okay. What does that have to do? That's fine. The reason he won is because
the same. That had nothing to do with the surrounding talent.
Yeah.
It was just he wasn't the same, and that's kind of the same. That's kind of a test to my point. It's that players when they get older, they're going to need some help around them.
And when Peyton was younger, he had Wayne Harrison, Edgerrin James, Joseph Adai. Nah, I can't. Dallas Clark.
You're really going to compare any of those Indianapolis teams to the 2013 Broncos roster?
Yes. Pound for pound, that rotten. Stop.
He threw for 55 touchdown passes, Justin.
That's nice. That's very nice.
It was very nice.
You're telling me Demaryius Thomas is better than Reggie Wayne or Marvin Harrison? Or you're telling me Emmanuel Sanders is better than any of those two?
I think as a collective unit, their team, that offense was better.
You need to stop. You really need to stop.
Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, Wes Welker, Julius Thomas, Noshawn Moreno, Peyton
Manning, Joseph Adai, Dallas Clark, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison. What?
It's close enough.
Stokely in the slot. Oh no, Austin Collie in the slot.
Could we? Come on, Austin.
Stop.
Austin Collie, give me a break.
Stop. You really did.
Can we at least agree that roster is better than the 2019 Patriots offense?
Yes.
Exactly. And you need more. And I think
offensively, yes, they were far better. I'm not sure about defensively.
You give that roster a younger Tom Brady.
The young buck. No, he's not going to the Super Bowl and winning with that roster.
They don't win the Super Bowl, but they go to the AFC Championship, I think. They did it in 2013. Gronkowski was hurt.
He wasn't. All right, my bad.
Edelman was his first year.
That was not his first year.
Yes, it was.
That was
first year being breaking out as a legitimate guy.
All right.
Before then, he was a punt returner. He was a utility guy. He was special teams. All right, he was.
All right, I understand your point, but I vehemently disagree with that point because the quarterbacks you're naming have had a lot of talent in their younger years and arguably better.
But they still had great talent around them when they were. You can argue all you want whether their talent before was better. They still had talent at the end of their careers.
Yeah,
that's my point. Is that you need talent. quarterbacks get to an age where they might need some more talent around them in order to succeed.
Yeah,
I think you give Peyton Manning, and in his prime, any sort of any group of players, and he can take that team to the playoffs. You take older Peyton Manning and you give them any group of players, and they won't be as effective.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Now, they were still able to make playoffs with Tom Brady at age 42, but they still couldn't. They weren't nearly as effective as they should.
Stop it. How old was Peyton Manning when he retired?
Peyton Manning, 39.
39. He retired a champion. That's all that matters.
Well,
yeah. He could have played. He couldn't have played. That was it for him, but he still went out on top.
Exactly.
Which is fine.
Talent around them to do that.
He had the defense around him.
It's talent.
The offense was pretty good, except it was all right. Peyton Manning just didn't have anything left.
Yeah, that's talent.
We'll argue about this all night. Let's just move on.
All right. We're not going to come to an agreement, but it was a solid debate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on, our final segment. So the Eagles, a couple of days ago, they released Deshaun Jackson, and they announced they're going to be releasing Alshon Jeffrey at the start of free agency as well. So this leaves them extremely thin at wide receiver, considering their top receivers right now are undrafted Travis Fulgham and Jalen Reagor.
Mm-hmm.
So a key point to this is they have the number 6 pick in the draft. All right. So do these moves mean that they will be corresponding by taking a wide receiver with this pick, the 6th pick in the draft?
I believe with these moves specifically, yes, I think they could be gearing up towards them. Is that the right move they should be making? It's questionable. I believe wide receiver is a big need, but probably not their biggest need. I believe their O-line needs more help because Jason Peters, love him, but he's up there in age now. Time to go. Back him up. He needs to either retire or move on. I think they need left on that left side. Brandon Brooks is coming back from an injury, so he'll be a bit banged up starting the season. Lane Johnson, in and out of the lineup all year. You need consistency out of them. So I believe they need to either draft somebody to fill in right now or draft somebody that'll fill in for next year on the O-line. Cornerbacks, I don't need to say anything else about the cornerbacks. Darius Slay did not play up to snuff this year. They need to do better. Hopefully they draft somebody in the second round to fill that spot, but I could see them trading back in the draft and probably drafting another corner.
Okay.
Ryan?
I'm going to take a complete X on your part. I'm going to say that this is a good move first off, this is a good move for the Eagles by releasing these 2 washed up, veteran, banged up receivers that to me can't perform anymore. And I like how you have that. I liked how they drafted. Fulgham was a nice little addition that they got. I think that they're going to be drafting either Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase, and for their 6th pick. I don't think they're going to be trading back. I don't think they're going to do that, but I just think that they need, after those releases of the wide receivers, I think they need maybe a number 1, because I think Reagor right now is a number 2, and Fulgham could probably play as slots or something. I agree with you that the O-line was banged up. They could maybe sign a couple of O-linemen that could fill in their spots. And since we're talking about the picks that they received from Indianapolis, they could use those 2 extra picks that they got to rebuild a little bit around that defense. And yes, I understand that cornerback trio was atrocious. I think for their 2nd round pick, they should target a cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely agree that they're probably going to take a wide receiver with this pick.
Yeah.
And you're right to your point. They do have a lot of other needs. I think the thing with that is, wide receiver is arguably their biggest need here.
Yeah.
And when you have the 6th pick and you have a chance to draft Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith if he falls that far, then you take him, especially since he's one of your needs and possibly your biggest need.
Yeah.
So I think this is a no-brainer. They have to take Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, and they need to set Hurts up for success, or else you're going to get another head case, like the second coming of Carson Wentz. Not to say that he's as mentally broken down as Carson Wentz was, but you put yourself in the same position as you were before by not getting your franchise quarterback any help. And
I think they've already started to break him. I think they already started to break him. And I don't think we realize it because week 17, you don't just pull a guy. You don't do that.
I don't think that was more on Hurts. That's not a knock on Hurts. That was more the player. Now, whether or not you think this was okay, I think that was him just saying. I think it was him saying the season's over. Let's just rest our starters. I don't think that was a knock on.
I think the starters finished the season
but
out.
I get what you're saying.
But I agree with that.
Brian?
I just still can't agree with what you said. That
why
earlier in the podcast that I think that those starters need to go out with a bang. I think they should have won that last game. And
okay, whether or not you think it's okay is another debate. I'm just giving you the reason why they did it. I'm not saying whether or not you want to agree with that, but I don't think that's going to play against. I don't think that's going to be a knock against Jalen Hurts. I think that's more, especially since they fired Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah, so I wonder why he got fired.
Going into this next season, I don't think that's going to play a part into Hurts' head at all.
It depends. It depends how he saw it. If he was upset about it.
Promising young kid.
It depends if he was upset about when he got pulled or not. It didn't look like he was at the end of the game because he was shaking hands and he was upset. All right. But I think since the remove of Doug Peterson, I think that he can go back to that team with a lot of confidence, new season, fresh start, and hopefully that he has a nice little talented offense that he could work with. Like I said, Rager, Fulgham, Goddard at tight ends, and maybe Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. You still got, I like Boston Scott as a nice backup to Miles Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the worries are for the Eagles is to draft a number one receiver, rebuild a little bit on that defense, use the picks that they got from Indianapolis and some of the other ones that they're given to rebuild to get that defense going, or maybe do something with that O-line. I understand that O-line was completely banged up last year. It was I didn't even know who the hell started half the time.
Well, I still think regardless, take whichever wide receiver they would allegedly be drafting on draft day. If they don't do that, then Travis Fulgham and Jalen Rager and Dallas Goedert are not enough.
Yes, I could agree.
I think you're setting Hurts up for failure, and you're creating the same problem over and over again. The same problem that you had with Carson Wentz.
I agree with you. My only problem is the reason I think they might go in another direction is because they chose a wide receiver last year. You see them going back to back this year because Jalen Rager was a first round pick last year.
I think when you have Jamar Chase and when you look at the school, LSU, they're especially and Devontae Smith too, if the schools where players just come out, wide receivers just come out, they're almost sure things.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at that, you just can't pass on talent like that. It's going to be the same. It's the same thing with the Cardinals when they drafted Josh Rosen to start.
Yeah.
The year before, they said, okay, he didn't work, so let's draft Kyler Murray the next year. I don't think he did.
I get it.
You get the point.
Yeah.
It's happened before, and I think it's easy to look at Jalen Rager as a prospect and look at Jamar Chase as a prospect and say, well, Jamar Chase is obviously the better prospect.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely Devontae Smith. So that's just a talent you just can't pass on, especially when you have a competent quarterback it's going to be hard to mess him up in Jalen Hurts. So I think this is going to work out.
I hope so. I hope so for the Philly fans who are wicked when it comes to the football season when they're having a terrible season.
Yeah,
oh boy,
it's rough.
They're brutal.
Pray for Philly fans.
Yeah.
That one Super Bowl victory seems very long ago, doesn't it? And I got to say, it's a little satisfying as a Patriots fan. After all of that rubbing in there was, Tom Brady lost to a backup quarterback. Oh, well.
At least the backup
your
quarterback.
Your starter wasn't so good either.
At least the backup quarterback could catch. I mean.
Oh, well. At least their starter isn't a mental case.
I'm sorry. At least he didn't fumble the game away, but.
Yeah,
we're not going to.
At least he didn't throw a pick in that game because Nick Foles did, and I think everybody.
So they both had turnovers, but one was more costly than the other.
That'll do it. That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify and Google Play. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram, Fumblerooski_podcast. That's at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.